We live in uncertain times. We live in uncertain times when our sense of safety can wear a bit thin. We live in uncertain times when it feels like anything can happen. Now, I'm most reminded of those uncertain times in the fall because of the anniversaries that come around. The Loma Prieta quake in 1989, remember that? Some of you, yes. The Napa earthquake in August of 2014. I'm seeing nods, yes. The Tubbs, Atlas, and Nuns fires in October 2017. The LNU lightning complex fires in August of 2020, followed by the glass fire in September 2020, and many more. So this time, what's that? So this time of year, if I smell smoke of any kind, I'm on high alert. Is that true for you? No. Whenever the weather is warm and windy in the fall, I'm on high alert. And whenever I feel a little rumbling, like the one from the quake on the Rogers Creek fault the other day, I'm on high alert. So why is it that I'm so good at ignoring the risk and not planning for it? I think to myself, I'm so glad I don't live in the path of hurricanes or tornadoes. I think I'll plan tomorrow. I think I'm safe enough. I'll always have time to grab my stuff before I have to leave. Well, that's what Aaron and Robert thought too. And that's what I thought the night of October 7th, 2017, when I went to bed. But then on the morning of October 8th, Aaron and Robert were at my front door, and my illusion of safety was dispelled. I want to say that the Housemans did nothing wrong, right? They didn't deserve this situation. And those of you who've lost homes or property in or had issues with health or family with regard to the fires or quakes or even violence or accidents, you don't deserve what happened to you. Just as those who have not suffered those things aren't being rewarded somehow for good behavior, right? I know no UU theology that suggests that there is a punishing God, a God that plays gotcha by afflicting us in some way. Of course, those messages are in our society, aren't they? For years, I adopted the belief that if I said my affirmations every day and focused on what I wanted, I would manifest it. And there's nothing wrong with that viewpoint, with having goals and dreams and thinking positively and working toward them. But there's a nefarious aspect of that as well. That if things don't go to plan, or if calamity befalls us, that somehow it's our fault, that we didn't visualize what we wanted well enough, or we didn't work hard enough, we didn't believe enough. That turns a lack of success or some terrible event to be a character flaw. Ugh. And that view is rampant in society. I think I've mentioned to you maybe before one of my favorite books called Everything Happens for a Reason and Other Lies I've Loved. Yeah, in it, the author, Kate Bowler, realizes that she is unwittingly subscribed to the prosperity gospel. The conviction that if she lived a good life propelled by self-determination and hard work, that she would prosper. And she did for a long time. And then some terrible health issues afflicted her. And she couldn't overcome them by sheer will or by more prayer or by anything that she did. And that's when she realized that the truth is that everything does not happen for a reason. That things just happen to us And we need to cope with them as best we can, even if our lives are never the same, and we may not even survive. But we're not damned when those things happen. It is possible. It's possible, with time and love and community, to live a whole life with joy, even in the aftermath of tragedy. Things just happen. Disasters, accidents, violence, illness, death. They're part of the human condition. There is no message, no inherently or divinely ordered meaning in them. And yet it is our job as humans, and something we kind of can't help, to create meaning from those. So each week during offertory, you hear our covenant, the covenant of this congregation and many others around the world, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. With these words, we commit to caring for one another to the best of our ability, and to help each other seek our truth to make meaning from our lives, even in times of disaster. Now, a disaster, of course, is any event that severely disrupts the everyday lives of individuals, families, and communities. Disasters often result in widespread property damage or injury. They can overwhelm our usual resources and coping mechanisms as individuals, families, and communities. In any disaster and in the aftermath, we may need to fend for ourselves and care for our loved ones. One way of coping is to have an emergency plan. By thinking through what we might need, we are better prepared to care for ourselves and others. Well, lately I've been working on improving my own emergency plan, which was surprisingly lacking despite everything that happens in the fall around here. Fortunately, the Boy Scouts over in Petaluma recently held a safety fair, that kind of an emergency planning fair. And when we were there, my husband and I purchased packaged go bags for our cars. Mine's right here. It's red, so I can't miss it. It's also really heavy because it's got a bunch of hermetically sealed pouches of water in it, along with some food bars and an AM/FM radio and batteries and all kinds of things, first aid kit. Things that I had not really pulled together in my own house, right? So the first aid kit was in the upstairs bathroom, and everything was kind of all over the place. So I got this little bag, and it lives in the trunk of my car now. And of course, I added to it some things that I needed, right? Change of clothes, medications for a week, things like that, to personalize it. A toothbrush, always a toothbrush. All of those things. And I bet you can think of what's in your go bag or what should be in your go bag. So, do you have a go bag? Seeing some heads nodding. Yeah. It's really important. And even more important is to check it every 6 months or so. Make sure stuff isn't out of date. Make sure that it's all ready for you if you need it. And I also started doing some of those other things that Robert and Aaron offered us. I try to keep my gas tank half full or so. I try to put my cell phone and my car keys and my wallet all in the same place every night so that I could find them if I needed them. And I have to say, I failed at that today. I had to go looking for my car keys before I left for church. So I have room for improvement. I've promised myself that when I go to buy cans of soup to go over there and donate to the food bank, that I will also buy a lot more cans for my house. Because if I had to eat meals for a week out of what was in my cupboard right now, I would eat some really strange meals. So a little bit more planning would be a good thing. And I also have been thinking about, but haven't gotten there yet, turning off the laptop and putting it in in an easy to grab place at night, because my entire brains are on my laptop. Is that true for some of you? Yeah. So if you don't have a go bag, or maybe need to beef yours up, there are lots of resources, of course, online. And I printed out some checklists from a safety organization that I found online. PG&E has them, lots of different places do. So that's all for our individual plans. You might think about who you would contact in an emergency if you don't have that together. My son moved out of our house a while ago now, but lives close by. And so we have a couple of rendezvous points in case something happens. So what about if you're at church when something happens? What would you do then? Well, some smart folks here have been thinking about that. I don't know if you know this, but we actually have a chief safety officer. She's sitting right over there. It's our own Margot McCandless, who's demonstrating what to do in an earthquake, right, Duck? Very much appreciated. We have an evacuation plan that has in it instructions for things like a fire drill, like I walked the kids through today. Okay, we have a rally point, and it is back there on the edge of the far walkway. And I put some chairs there today. The dream is to have benches out there in case we actually have to evacuate and hang there for a while. And the idea is that we meet in the back and not out in the front on the street because of emergency vehicles. We want to stay out of their way. So we'll meet back there. And I invite you now to think about what the fastest route would be for you to get out to those chairs. Is it to go through the sliding glass doors, which are unlocked, just in case? Would it be to go through one of these doors, the double doors, or the fire doors on either side? Think about that. Maybe it's to go out the hall and down that way. It feels kind of funny to be going through all of this in a church service. I got to say, it feels a little more like a PSA. But I think it's really important. It's really important that we take care of each other, right? And that we know that there's a plan. And that we know that there are some things that we can do to help each other. I wanted to point out this morning where the fire extinguishers are. We have 3 in this building. There's one right next to the kitchen door. And there's another one in the kitchen and another one on the other side, in the hall beyond the kitchen. And we have a defibrillator. How many of you can point to the defibrillator? It's right there on the wall next to the kitchen window. So you pass it if you're headed out toward the back. A defibrillator. I don't know if you've ever used one or practiced with one. They're amazingly simple to use. There could be a time when we need it. So do you have the emergency phone number for Napa in your phone or for your city, wherever you live? Because if you're calling from a cell phone, you might want to use the emergency number, right? Instead of calling 911, because it takes longer to get to your local services. Put that number in your phone. Have it handy. And I've got it if you want it after the service. So all of these things, and there's so much more that we could do here. It's probably time to reestablish a phone tree. It's probably a really good idea to know who in this congregation lives closest to you. So maybe you could check on each other. So if you want to work on some of those initiatives or other thoughts, other things that we could do, let us know. Talk to Margot. Talk to me. And we'll see if we can get some cool stuff done. So, of course, in an emergency, all of this preparation may not be enough, but it's a start. And I hope that the Houseman's reflection gave you a little bit more of that sense of urgency to begin and to stay up to date. So I'm glad that I've really begun my emergency plan. And it's important to me that you have a plan too. As a faith community, we know the importance for caring for each other and supporting one another. And we affirm that we get through the difficulties of life together. In the wake of disaster, we look for religious and spiritual care, as well as physical care. It's important. So we need to find a way to be able to talk about what happened, to grieve together, to feel less alone. So part of my disaster plan is to make sure that I'm available to you and to make sure that this building can be opened, if possible, so that it's available for those who need it. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. May we keep these promises to each other, even in these uncertain times. May we find meaning through fellowship and caring. And with courage and faith, let us bring ourselves to the work before us. Amen, and blessed be.